So the third breathtaking place in heaven discovered by Emanuel Swedenborg in his 30-year odyssey of exploring the afterlife is the gift cities. You know, the gift cities. This is out of his Journal of Spiritual Experiences, number 280, so right at the beginning.
Okay.
And he says, early in the morning, I was guided into one habitation of the inward heaven, where imagery of a manifold variety prevails, and, in fact, to those spoken of before who had been raised up into a higher habitation. So we're deep inside heaven, where there's a lot of symbolism and things start to get...
Yes, you're right.
Here, they now seem to themselves to build cities and to give them to others, and even to hide something secret in the city, which they want no one to discover, lest it be done violence.
Gift cities. Okay.
I think about people that build model trains. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
There's something like the core of that. Nothing is happening in heaven that's frivolous. Everything there is a use of some kind. A city corresponds to the, what is it, to the intellect, or is it to the doctrine someone has?
Yeah, I think of it as being particularly a body of teaching. Like it's, okay, this teaching goes with that one. Like I picture all these buildings that are put together to make, okay, this is this city, this is a whole approach. And that's why the New Jerusalem is called a holy city, and
right.
Because it's not just one teaching or one type of teaching, it's a whole world of a whole world view.
So deep inside heaven, deep in the inward heaven, which the farther you go into heaven, the more people are living in the divine design. The more that people are living the way that God intended for life to be. And what do we find there? Is these little people building these, I guess, miniature cities, or he said there's a lot of representations. So somehow this is an expression of something that's in the mind of these angels, but they make them and they put something in them that they don't want anyone to discover, and then they give the city to somebody. He goes on to say, there was a kind of innocence about them, and for this reason they are even protected by little children. If I suddenly became a celebrity, I was like, oh, I'm going to need personal protection now. I'm going to get little children.
That's right.
They go, okay, come on, kids, come on through here. Now, if anyone tries to grab me on stage here, you guys, what's he talking about? Protected by little children. Well, it just so happens that while here in the physical world, children are vulnerable and need to be protected, in the spiritual world, innocence, as we've alluded to in some of our videos, is actually a very potent force.
Yes.
That's
right.
Swedenborg describes evil spirits being scared senseless and running at the approach of a little child, because the power, the innocence of God is so there. It's so present there.
And there's something about a child's, you can see this to some extent in our culture, I would say, that where adults might get all wrapped up in, well, maybe it's okay. I mean, I guess it's, whatever, you're sort of equivocal about things.
Yeah.
But a kid will be, it's wrong,
Yeah.
And evil spirits can't get near that. It's like, you're a sleazy weasel. That's what you are. And the little child can call it out, and there's nothing evil spirits can do about that. They can't function when in that situation.
As we just were demonstrating in a couple shows ago, one of the main ways by which hell accesses the human mind is through getting us wrapped up in stuff.
Right.
Where you think...
Obsession, all that, yeah.
Where you're
overthinking.
Where you dwell too much on the things that seem to be your problems, and where you don't believe that God is guiding your life. So you start to think things through it, and that's a way that hell can stir things up, stir up enmities between people, can get you writing this whole storyline in your head. That's how hell accesses you. Kids don't do that. They're just like living in the moment. Jesus Christ says, "Let the little children come to me, for as such is the kingdom of heaven." There's an imperviousness to just kind of, well, I'm just hanging out. God's got my life, because then there's no toehold for falsities.
Isn't it I'm thinking of the story of the emperor's new clothes, and actually doesn't have any clothes. He's been sort of fooled by the tailors or whatever it was. And isn't it a child who says, but he's, because everybody else may have this sort of, well, I guess we should pretend that, things are okay, or, but the child sees right through it.
It's a remarkable thing to say, like, oh, the kingdom of heaven is like a little child, and that all the imagery of people living in the happiness and bliss of heaven is little innocent things, like the Lord is my shepherd. You're comparing yourself to a sheep, and he's taken me to where I need to eat, and he's taken me to where I need to drink, and there's enemies around, but I'm just here eating because the Lord's here. It's just fascinating. And then you go deep into heaven like this, and what do you find? You find little people who are engaged in these little innocent activities, meaningful, powerful, yet innocent. They're protected by innocence. Swedenborg says, "I stayed with them for a long time, and I could not but love their life, which was similar to a sweet sleep. They are all childlike, and do not know anything of evil, being also in a state of ignorance."
It's so rare that Swedenborg says things like that. He's usually the observer. He's got his clipboard, arrived 3:23 p.m.
Yep.
Saw these people.
Yep. It's all business.
So here was it's all business. Doesn't often say, "I loved these people,"
Yeah.
and stayed with them for a long time. I'm also sort of wondering, what do you send as a thank you card if someone gives you a city?
Well, I mean, you're going to give them some infrastructure, like road, like highway system. I don't know. What's the compliment to a farm? You send them a farm?
Right. Send them a farm back. Yeah, that's right.
And to whom are they giving these things, and how? Yeah, there's a million more questions.
But I can picture it in my mind's eye.
Yeah.
Can't you? It's just cool to think about.
Okay.
And there's something precious hidden in. So I do picture kind of a model, and something precious, just not even necessarily in the center of it, because maybe you'd think of looking there, but it's somewhere.
Yeah.
Something
And it's not, as I alluded to before, it's not frivolity. The Lord's kingdom is a kingdom of uses, meaning everything that happens there, the joy in it, the heavenly joy is only the joy of knowing you're doing something good for someone, something that makes the human race better, that you're doing something good for the human race. These angels who are this deep into heaven, who were once people in this world, they could not enjoy and love creating these little cities if they did not believe it was for the benefit of someone. So it does something.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly how or what. But my daughter got a gift of a little, not quite a model train because it's all made of cardboard, but something like that, which was from like a series that she liked. And a lot of the construction of that fell to me.
Is that right?
I loved it. I was just like, oh yeah, I've got to punch this thing out and do this thing. And there's like some of like, okay, that's fun. But also I know like I'm making this for her. And I'm also making it so that if I finish this, it's not like scattered all over our house. So clean up that mess. And so there's a sense of purpose in it too. And I think, why can people enjoy things like that so much? I think it's because this part of heaven is near to you when you're doing that sort of thing. And it was the same thing. I think there's people who are woodworkers or on a factory floor or something who can, under the right conditions, be experiencing similar kinds of joy, or they're putting together, a lesson plan or something. You can feel that same kind of joy. Like you think about, a teacher who's developing a lesson plan, isn't she or he developing a little city of the mind to then give to these students?
Yeah. And looking forward to presenting this thing with all these components, but it's all going to be presented at once. It reminds me a little bit of wedding days where people might work for 2 years. There all these elements, there's music, there's flowers, there's all the clothing, all these different elements and color palette.
Can't
all
have
coming
these
together.
people sit with those people at the same table. Like, we got to rearrange that.
And you've figured all this out just for one experience. You know, people will be there for 4 hours or something, and yet there's many, many components to it. So I do imagine that these angels feel inspired, like they can hardly help it, like they just wake up thinking about, oh, and it needs some sort of a watchtower. Yeah, I'll put in a watchtower, and then we'll need this, and this will be good. This will create a... And then I imagine if you saw that or you had that in your house, it might be an inspiration. Like if they told you, or you could see what it meant.
Yeah.
You know, the form of this is the shape of the mind that loves the Lord or is connected to heaven, and this is how the different pieces go together.
Yeah, impacts their life and their happiness. Lord of the Rings, making of DVD. I don't know, back when they had DVDs and we had like the extended version of the Lord of the Rings,
me back.
and it shows you how they made the movies. And to me, it was just this is blatantly heaven. This is people in heaven, because everybody there, I may have mentioned this on the show before, but there's this thing that needs to be made, which are these movies. Like, they probably didn't even know at the time that those were made like 20 years ago, and people are still like, oh, those are great movies. They touch so many lives. People get inspired by it. Everybody who's making those, there's so many different parts. There's like the actors and how the actors prepare and they do things and how they do these scenes. There's like the wardrobe and the makeup and how they do that. But then there's all the like people doing the chain mail for the props of this guy's got to have a sword. And a lot of the people love the Lord of the Rings. They're like, oh, I love this is so cool. It's my dream come true. But they're all working together to build this city. It's just going to be a 2-hour experience. Closer to 3 with some of those movies. Experience for you. But they're all piecing together for years and years. They're trying to get this thing. They're building that city.
And there's a whole world. You go into this whole world when you go into those movies.
Yeah.
Because they've done such a great job of it. And the different area, the Shire looks like this, but this area looks like that. And
right. And some people then got to like edit it, and they got to color correct it, and they got to do the sound on it. And just like all this comes together to give you this modern equivalent of a city that you're going to stick in your mind.